Well, Mr. Welch, you are now officially part of the Radical Metal podcast, which we have tens of viewers.
I love it.
Uh, so Chaz and I started it. We did the first one, I don't know, a couple months ago, and he's just super busy. But maybe I can give you a little bit of background. You may have gotten hints of it. Maybe you saw a little bit of the other one we did. But Chaz and I, when we get out, we don't talk that often, but when we do, we can't seem to stop talking. And testimony to that is the last podcast, which lasted 3 hours. But the two things we love talking about are one, kind of metal. We just can't. It seems like we get excited and very passionate about metal, as probably all of us do that are part of the MBC family, which we can maybe delve into that a little bit about how you and I know each other, but also politics. And I think where Chaz and I were also passionate, it's just that didn't seem to be a big voice that's sort of in the middle, or someone who can point to one side and the other side and point out something as being ridiculous, as well as see the value of those exact same sides in other areas, or when other things come up, or in other instances. That you're either on one side or the other, and they're the loudest voices, and there didn't seem to be a whole. There are people out there that I think would probably qualify if there was a membership to the radical middle. Some big voices, but we kind of felt there wasn't enough.
There is, and you can see in the voting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think it makes sense, even the bands we gravitate towards are ones that lend ourselves to critical thinking, which is all about the middle, right? And there's not enough of that. I hope critical thinking could enter the political realm sooner than later, but it seems like a far off fantasy at this point, especially after the results of the latest big time elections. But certainly down here in Texas, I know a lot of people that just click one side or the other and don't put much thought to it.
Yeah, and I
like
think
the musical choices.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be much hope for critical thinking in the discourse that's out there, because I think once you start going down that path, if you're trying to get elected, it's not helping you. It doesn't seem to be helping anyone. I mean, that's if I saw that demonstrated, and I do sometimes with some political figures, that inspires me, and I make sure I'll vote for them. And it doesn't matter what party they're in. If I think that they're fall within that category, but I don't think it's very practical for them to get reelected or elected in the first place if they display those characteristics of critical thinking. It's about who's kind of raising the most. It seems to be, but who's the angriest.
Well, yeah, and I don't mean to say there's not critical thinkers on the right or the left. I just it does seem to pigeonhole you into a thought lane that you can't get out of if you want to still be considered. But life is about gray matter, so it's also hard for me to believe that you would want to stay there as a living, breathing human being. I tried to not be presumptuous there, and then I went right back into it, didn't I? But it blows my mind. It baffles. It actually hurts my heart just doing a little traveling. The different thought processes going on, and the redundancy that we have to incur if you move out of your lane. It was a good experience because I'm sure some of that heart hurt will lead to good thinking and maybe good ideas down the road.
Well, one thing I quote often with conflict, there's generally opportunity. Um, what's that from? I think it's from the Chinese language, written. I don't know if it was Mandarin or Cantonese, but the same character for conflict in Chinese is also opportunity. So maybe there's some of that to be found within the current climate. But maybe we should delve more into that regarding where you were, what you're doing. But real quick, I just wanted to say, in case anybody listens to this, and I have no delusions here, but
At least two people will.
yeah, well, I'm going to post it on our NBC.
Yeah.
NBC, of course, being Megadeth Bootcamp, where we all met back in 2017. And my wife and I got married there, and you wrote us a prayer that I cherish to this day for our wedding, that I think is actually in this drawer down here, which is kind of our wedding artifact drawer. And so we met there. I don't know. I don't think we hung out that much. I feel like we became a little bit closer after the fact, just in our correspondence over Facebook and whatnot.
Yeah, we had a little time out at the winery, I think.
Mhm.
But you guys were obviously being very couplish, and my wonderful wife would not. She stayed out at Pala the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So I was like jamming out with Milan and a couple of the other fellas, and being generally crazy and stupid. That was it's like a big. Um, I don't like to use the R word, but a discombobulated family metal reunion of sorts, cookout for 3 days.
Yeah.
It was just all over the place. Um, it was neat how many connections were made and how much we got to hang out with so many different people. Because you show up, you don't know anybody. Maybe I knew a few people from the industry or something like that, and one regional guy, and then that didn't matter. Like the walls just broke down immediately. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. I think that's kind of one of the many beauties of metal. Or any passion, and anytime people get together based off of a significant passion, um, the walls, I think, are probably quicker to come down. But what was the back in March 2017?
Yeah.
Tell me real quick, how did you hear about the Megadeth Bootcamp?
Uh, I was a former musician who gave it up for quite some time, mostly because of arthritis in my hands, but then raising a family, I just got further and further away from it. And then as my kids got older, picked it up again, was teaching a little bit, and started going back out to the shows and people I knew in Dallas, which, as you know, a lot of Pantera people here.
Yeah.
And that family's still pretty strong, even at the time, Vinny was still kicking, even though he had moved out to Las Vegas. He was around a lot. And so I had bumped into somebody that knew Elfson, and he told me he wanted to do, he was talking about mega church, doing a mega church like in the backyard of one of their houses. That's all he said. So I had mentioned it to my wife. I want to do mega church.
Mhm.
That's all I said. She poked around in, some emails of mine or something, found out about it, and got me the local pass. This is all without me knowing. Booked, us a room at Pala, and um, she told me a few days before, grab your guitar, we're going on a short vacation. Now, she's never told me to take my guitar on a plane. And she didn't tell me where we were going and I didn't know where Mustaine's house was at the time.
Mhm.
It moved quite a bit. So we showed up at that casino, and then within an hour, she's like, "Now go outside." And there was Oh man, I'm forgetting her name. Short. Well, anyway, with the
Oh,
bus.
yeah, no. Oh man, that's messing with me. I want to say Cat, but it wasn't Cat. It was Sam. Wait, Max. I think it was Max. Did she go
Maybe,
by Max?
maybe. But there's a huge bus outside.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, have fun at band camp. I was like, well, and then I saw like the dystopia sign in front of the bus. I was like, holy crap.
She
And
kept the
so,
secret that long?
and there was only like 5 of us on the bus. They rolled us over there. Uh, and the folks staying on property weren't there yet, right? So we rolled up.
Mm.
Somebody opened up my guitar case. I walked up the driveway. Dave McRobb handed me a beer and said, "I'm your paparazzi for the weekend." I was like the only one standing up there for a while, and then people started rolling up.
Did you see Dave then? Was Dave was staying out
Nope,
yet?
nobody was on the driveway yet. The first to come out was Dave and Kiko. A few minutes, well, half a beer later. Uh, um, so yeah, and then it sunk in. I was like, I wasn't even sure whose house it was yet until McRobb kind of said a few things.
I'm really impressed by your wife to keep that kind of surprise a secret for so long.
I
I
mean,
don't
I
know.
knew something Megadeth related was going on. They surprised me with like a little gift, but it was still like I was like, "Are you sure I'm bringing my guitar?" She's like, "I think you'll need it." So it was really crazy. And I don't think I'd taken my guitar on a airplane. If I did, I can't remember. It was mostly in vans and stuff like that.
Well, it's
So
also kind
it
of a
was just
pain.
crazy, and I was nervous. I'm an extra, I'm an introvert actually,
Mhm.
uh, but everybody within the hour just kind of broke down, loosened up, and explained everything that was going on. It was fun.
Yeah, the beer was flowing. I remember walking up the driveway after they checked our bags and everything. I might have been part of the first big bus load. I don't know. You were certainly probably you must have already been there because when I got there, Dave was walking down the driveway, and I just remember, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is he was the first guy I saw. And I remember just shaking his hand like, Dave, thank you so much for inviting us to your home. He's like, okay, yeah, right on, buddy. And then he kept going. But just such a strange I think like you're saying, like the walls coming down and everybody kind of connecting immediately, but also just how weird it was. I mean, normally you're waiting for your idols or your heroes to like come out on stage or be some big fanfare, and then they're separated by something. The whole time from right when we got there, we're just all hanging out by the pool, it seemed like.
Yep.
And I was like immediately wanting to take pictures, much to the embarrassment of my wife, but that's kind of sadly who I am. And
I don't have that bone either, and I wish I did. I did wind up getting a bunch of photos, and of course, McRobb did a great job of
oh yeah.
filling, and there was a couple other photographers there, but I was really surprised with Dirk. I, I knew he was a great talent, and I definitely listened to Soil Work. Um, but he wasn't. The Dystopia album was just not him,
Mhm.
and I was wondering, how did he get into this tight little Mustaine clan? Dude, that guy was just the nicest musician I may have ever met. And we've met a bunch, and I know you have. I I never felt like I was around a superstar drummer. I just felt like I was around a music nerd who
Yeah.
loved to jam, loved to decompose, and just talk about cool stuff. He surprised the heck out of me, and I think he was wound up being my favorite band member for the weekend. Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
Dave wouldn't disagree.
Well, for me too. I think it's a toss up with me between Dirk and Kiko, and they're both
Kiko's
new to
great too.
me, right? Um, and I think only because I think I spent the most time with them. I don't know if that's the same with you, but and just the conversations were so relaxed. I gotta tell you, when I was around Dave, it was cool. It was awesome, and definitely some fun moments. But I was still nervous.
Yeah.
I couldn't seem to shake it around Dave. I did around David Elfson just because we had talked before even flying out there, which was mind blowing. I don't know if I've told you that story, but because we asked to get married and they said yes, he called a few days later after we kind of, arranged for that to happen to just go over what he wanted to go over, like what the program, what we wanted the program to be, kind of thing, like a great minister. um, and so there was that was mind blowing, but comfortable and kind of eased me into hanging out with him. I think Dave, I was still Dave Mustaine. It was still, I think, nervous every time I talked to him. But
Mustaine and I didn't have much to say to one another. We had a quick conversation, and we stood next to each other during metal trivia night. He was probably exasperated with how little I knew. For if anybody does watch this, the amount of things that we did, the clinics, a ton of great clinics. We had obviously a private acoustic set over a bonfire, which is pretty rare for the Megadeth guys. We did have mega church on Sunday.
mm-hmm.
Lightly attended. We had a mega wedding, of course. You and Anna just, it was so cool. I mean, I know you guys had a large family wedding, but can't beat Kiko being your little side music and getting walked down the aisle by Vic.
Well, that's where I think I was going to eventually. Just things like that is why I
Coffee
really.
tasting,
Oh yeah.
all the
Well,
meals.
the meals were great.
The inside breakdown in Dave's parlor with Jerry Vietz on all the ingredients that go into a Toulemon, which is, if anybody doesn't know, that's Uni Brew. I mean, they're an incredible craft
We just
brewing
bought
company.
some. We just went
I can
to
get it
Total
right here in
Wine.
Rockwall at Beer Geeks, and it's just they know when I come in. They're like, "How many you want?" What we packed in the 3 days was like, it's a really cool vacation in itself, let alone you're hanging out with some of your metal heroes and a bunch of other great musicians, by the way.
Yeah. And it's
And some
been
not so
not
great,
so great.
but they didn't care either. I mean, they're learning.
Yeah. Man, just so many memories. But one thing I was gonna say, like Kiko playing at our wedding, he just said that right. It was 30 minutes before Anna walked down the aisle. He's like, "Hey, do you want me to set up and play while she walks down the aisle?" I was like, "What? Yes, like that would be amazing." Gave him this big hug, and then Dirk was right there, and I gave Dirk a big hug. And it was just, it's just a dream come true, and it just exceeded every corner, exceeded expectations, which I think you're kind of saying that too, with all the awesomeness that was packed into those couple of days.
And it wasn't forced either. I mean, I think they brought out an agenda at some point, but it didn't feel forced. We were just kind of flowing through the property, hanging out, learning, playing, and loving, I guess. I mean, it was like a family reunion for folks that are just fans of the band. And then, there was a few industry folks like Jose hanging around, but I guess that was great to keep things moving at night.
Yeah. I appreciate Jose too for his, he gave us a nice wedding toast. But Yeah, just surreal. It's fun to talk about. Especially, we're 2022. That was 2017.
Mm.
I'm not talking about it every day. I'd like to.
5 years almost.
Yeah. And I'm sure uh COVID obviously has thrown a wrench in if there's ever any plans to have another one. Um I wonder if that's still on the table. Um to do something like that again, or if that was a one-time deal, which, I think I might be okay with that too, because it makes it a little more special. But what do you think? Do you think there'll be a part two?
I don't think in that format.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, since then, the guys have got a lot older. There's obviously been the terrible schism in the band.
Mm-hmm.
Dave's a cancer survivor. I think they're moving again. So right now, if he opened up his home, we'd all go to Nashville, but I don't know if he's going to be there much longer. And the other two cohabitate, kind of all over the place, and they have young families. I mean, they're our age. I don't, they did the mega cruise, obviously, which to
Did you go
me,
on that?
no, my
Yeah,
wife was willing to send me, but I don't like cruises.
I don't.
I
I've never been on one. I don't ever want to go
We're
on.
gonna get the thumbs down for the 3 people that watch this on that, I'm sure, but the last vacation I wanna take is floating around on a big boat. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
so
just
that's just me. Now, I talked to people who went on it, and there were a lot of Megadeth boot campers that went.
Jason Gooley. He went.
Uh, I think, Steve got on the boat, McCarthy,
Mm-hmm.
Ange no, 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 Angela, Erica went, right?
Erica Herring. Yeah.
And probably, yeah, I can't remember else who went. Seemed like there was quite a few, pretty good handful of them. I saw Gooley down here uh, in August when Megadeth came through.
Oh, nice. What'd you
He
guys
was,
do?
it was
He's an animal.
he was handing out merch after to um, the Megadeth. What's the membership called? Dang it.
Oh, the
Anyway,
Army? Megadeth
the
Army?
Army. He was passing out merch to the Army people that went to the concert
Mm-hmm.
with McRob, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm helping handing out merch." He just left Chicago to go on the road for a few weeks. He's like, "Yeah, for a little bit." I'm like, okay.
Well, did you ever watch it? He had a DevOps, Metal DevOps, that
Yeah,
podcast. So plug for Metal DevOps, Jason.
I
Um,
haven't seen an episode lately. He gave me a sticker. Uh,
yeah, I was wondering if that's what you said merch. I'm like, is it for the podcast? But sounds like it was
no, he
Megadeth.
was helping McRob hand stuff out.
It's interesting to see because some people, and I don't know what your connection with the band is or how well you knew them beforehand. It sounds like you bumped into Elfson before NBC. Maybe we can go into that, but like it's interesting too to see everybody's has a different relationship with the band. I think Jason's an interesting guy too because he became I think I can say this, but David Ellefson's um, IT, what do you call it? Technical director, I think is what you call it, or maybe the CIO, Chief Information Officer, one of those titles dealing with technology. And Jason and I have talked about. We haven't really confirmed it, but he was going to help out too, similar to what he does for David with Sustained Liberia. Because we've talked a lot about that, and maybe even setting up some kind of a Cisco Academy where we bought land and built a building.
That'd be killer. He's the guy to do it. I mean, I'm in the software space too, and in fact, I was up in Chicago on business after that concert, and we were trying to get together, but it didn't work out. I wound up only seeing McCarthy, and so I've yet to hook up with Jason and talk nerd stuff as it relates to metal. I hope he does an episode soon because I'd like to watch and you know
Yeah,
comment from the gallery.
he had Tom Hazard on too.
Yeah.
And I know he had David Ellefson. I can't remember the other one. I want to say he had Dirk too at one point, but I'm not sure about that. But how did you? What was your connection with Megadeth besides being a fan? It sounds like you may have known him a little more intimately than just as a fan.
Well, I grew up upstate New York, Rochester, and I go out to the House of Guitars, to the Hog, in Greece, New York. It's world renowned. It's just a house with a record store and a guitar shop. And but anybody who came through town from a guitar walk would typically do a free clinic out there, and anybody could show up. So you get free clinics from Zach Wilde and Steve Vai,
Nice.
and anybody who's anyway. Marty Friedman did one, and I had just discovered Megadeth. I was just peeling through CDs or whatever, and I saw the cover of Peace Cells, and that's why I picked it up.
What was it about the cover?
It was just Vic hanging over that grave. I was like, yeah, I'm buying this. And right after that, Rust in Peace came out, and I was a diehard fan. For me, it kind of the big four, I loved Exodus, but was much more into Anthrax and Megadeth. Anthrax for fun and Megadeth for pure musicality. And so I'm not mentioning the other ones because I just wasn't huge fans of them.
Yeah.
So Marty, got to see him twice at a clinic, and he was just really nice and had some signed paraphernalia. Well, then I got into music, and you're trying to meet the guys you love when you're in a band, and they were pretty closed off. They're so huge, and now we know that they were going through their own addictions and getting clean, and that's hard to do. And I wasn't really, like I said, extroverted as you are going after the guys. But you know what? The Pantera guys were. And I got to know them. And then I wound up moving down to Texas and hanging out at a few of their establishments during my crazy years. And also going to a lot of Stars games with Vinny. And they introduced you to everybody. Well, at that time, I was getting clean, and I worked on some of the I Am Second project, if you remember those. I don't know if it's testimonies from folks that have gone through some rough stuff, usually celebrities. Brian Head Welch was one of them.
Oh, okay.
We share the same last name, but we're not related.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's where I bumped into Elfson again.
Oh, okay.
And like I said, I was kind of removing myself from the industry at the time, but he was super kind, and he wasn't involved with Megadeth at the time. For the first time, he wasn't involved.
Yeah, 2010, around there somewhere.
And just it became more of a social media connection, or going to, out at some of these songwriter conferences, knowing people on the fringes, and just being around the guys. Of course, I got some pictures, but I was pretty bad at that. They were just conversations that kept you in the loop with things and meeting nice people. And Dallas is full of a great metal community. It's not as vibrant as other places, but with the connections that the Abbott brothers really gave everybody, you could just stay in the scene. And so I don't, when Elfson got back in the band, I don't think I really ever saw him again. I'm not sure I heard him say, I want to do mega church. He was so good on social media. It might have just been that. Um, but he's always been good to respond and being kind. And I think for a time, a lot of those guys, as standoffish as they were at first, and it might have been all the booze and drugs and everything. As they got to our age now, they started warming back up to their fans. It's amazing their memories, that they remember anybody. But like guys like Zach Wild, they remember those little clinics at the Hog in Greece, New York. They don't forget those things, even if they were all boozed up in the middle afternoon. And that's the connection. It's like a big spider web of metal early on, and going away from it and coming back, and the metal guys are always still there. It doesn't matter how long.
That's pretty awesome. I certainly did not have any. I didn't have any interactions with anybody till my later years. I think my 40s. Really, I'm 40. Oh, I'm about to be 46 in a couple days here. But I didn't. That was all like they were Mount Rushmore, man. Like all of them. It didn't even think it was possible to interact or it just seemed like another world. You know what I mean? Probably like most fans feel. And then it wasn't until later where I think I'm like, hey, I want to meet these people. What do I need to do to meet them?
How did you find boot camp?
I think I was part of the whole Megadeth Army thing, and I just got a notification. I read that it was going on. I read the itinerary and read that there was a it wasn't called mega church. Well, maybe it was. I can't remember. But I just read that there was a church service. And my then fiance, Anna, and I were, we had been engaged for a few months. And I said, hey, why don't we see if they'll marry us? Wouldn't that be cool? And like, there's a church service. I mean, we could just be a little small piece of that. And that would make for a great story. And so I emailed I forget who the promotion company was, who was running it, and just said, hey, I have a fiance. Would Megadeth be open to having a marriage ceremony? And I didn't think it was more like, wouldn't that be cool if that worked out? But I didn't have any expectations. And then I got an email saying, yeah, they absolutely would. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, man, they totally will. You just need to pay for we need to know you're serious. Are you coming? You got to just pay for it still. Because quite honestly, I'm not sure we would have done it if that. I mean, it was expensive. It was a pretty penny, a few thousand for both of us. So but once we got that word, we're like, yeah, it's absolutely in. And immediately I paid for it. So they knew we were serious and not just messing around. And then whoever I was talking to said, hey, David Ellison wants to talk to you to plan how it is you want to do it. I'm like, wait, what? Because we thought maybe we'd go into a corner somewhere while everybody was doing whatever they were doing, and he would marry us under a tree or something on Dave's property.
No, it's just everybody.
Yeah, it was everybody. It's just everybody, and it was like kind of made a big to do out of it. And then, from planning it with David on speakerphone with my wife, my soon-to-be wife, blowing my mind, right? And then getting there and actually doing it, and then Vic Rattlehead, aka our dear friend. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I can't remember his name right now. What's our dear friend's name? Who's Vic Rattlehead?
You mean from South America?
Yeah. Are we allowed to say that? Are we allowed to say who he is?
I think so.
Oh, why can't I remember? I'm having a blank right now. It was just really disheartening to me since I've seen him since then, and I love him to death. But for him to walk Anna down the aisle, and then for Kiko to play, and then Dave's there, and Jose's there, and their families are there, and then David, conducting the ceremony, just was just a dream, just a total dream. Not even a dream come true, because I never fathomed something like that would happen. But it was cool talking to Dave Mustaine, beforehand too. I was still nervous, but he's like, "Hey, you need to get David to bless the rings," and he's like, "He's in the house." I'm like, "Is it okay if I go in there?" He's like, "Yeah, go in there." So I find him. We pray over the rings, give each other a hug, and then Anna, I think, was just totally mind blown and freaking out. She was shaking afterwards, and man, I can't remember. This is terrible for this podcast, especially if we post. I can't remember anybody's name now. But she had the tattoo Jesse's girl, because she also was married to a Jesse. But she got us 2 shots of Jameson just to calm our nerves.
It was a huge moment. It
Wow.
was actually, for not being planned, it was a beautiful ceremony in itself. You guys couldn't really ask for better weather.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it was, by accident, but it was a full house. So, just kind of an amazing moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then back to Dave McRobb and his pictures, and it was I hate to put it like this, because it's not how I feel about it necessarily, but it ended up being a really inexpensive wedding for a pretty amazing time as weddings go, right? And then to have, Dave McRobb was our photographer, and to have all
Minus
the pictures.
not having the family there, it was probably kind of weird, but um, it felt like we were all in it with you, even though we barely knew you.
Yeah.
It was definitely like when I found out that was happening, obviously that night, that's when I wrote the prayer. I just felt like an immediate connection to you guys. It was like, I'm pretty sure Elson has this taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and give him my own personal blessing since no family's here. That was the thought behind it, but I was moved just by the familial stuff we were doing, other than hanging out with some rock stars.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it seemed to have a positive effect on those who were there, which was a great relief to me, as opposed to, hey, who are these jerks? Why do we have to sit around for this? I don't even know these guys. So that's really nice to hear, and I heard similar comments from others too, which is really great. But yeah, just mind-blowing fun experience. And the family, it probably would not have been as fun too if it was challenging with my family. They joked about not being there, and it gave me a hard time in a fun way. But we had a nice gathering, as you mentioned, when we got back. We kind of did it the traditional thing, just a month later in April. So hopefully we check those boxes.
Well, now you're in it. You got little Callie and great
Cammy.
stuff going on. Cammy, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm bad at. I can see 1,000 posts and I'll say it wrong.
Well, I forgot Rafael.
Rafael.
Rafael. Sorry, Raf. I'm not even drinking. I'm actually drinking a non-alcoholic wine. I'm doing the dry I'm doing a dry January and February actually, and decided to pick. This is why we're at Total Wine, but Anna got some Unibrew, and I wanted to kind of see what these non-alcoholic wines were like.
Any
And
good?
I'm not sure actually. It tastes like communion wine, communion juice, grape
Hmm.
juice. It's good. Well, man, I think really appreciate this time that you're able to give to this cause. I think we did hit on a little bit of politics in the beginning. These are not meant to spend so much time with one subject or another. What I liked about this session was, we didn't with Chaz when we did it last time. We talked about a lot of fun stuff, and it was really great. But we didn't talk about the actual event of Megadeth Bootcamp. So it was nice
We could
going down.
probably it'd probably be fun for us to combine pictures and do a photo tour
Oh
of the weekend
yeah,
somehow chronically. That'd be difficult to do, but maybe we could do that. I
there's
did have a metal question for you though.
yeah. Tell me.
Because I mean, my playlists run deep over the decades, and I tried to listen to more new stuff last year. Of course, there were so many old names that released albums.
Yeah.
That my favorite metal album of the year is a band I got to see last year, and has been around a while. So I was curious, out of all the great albums that dropped in 2021, what your favorite album was.
Well,
And I'll tell you,
it is easy. It's Hushed and Grim
I could
by
have guessed.
Mastodon. I mean, it's just obvious, right? I mean, if I'm a Megadeth fanatic, I'm actually even more so, as you're probably tracking by now, a Mastodon fanatic. I've met them multiple times because I've been very intentional about going to every show. At least I don't go travel or anything necessarily, but there's been though it's some I got close a couple times, but usually just when they come into town. Um, but Hushed and Grim, it sounds like you were listening to that a little bit too. Did I hear that right when we were um, DMing each other?
100%. Actually, what had popped up was um, Steam Breather from 3 albums ago or so.
Yeah, Emperor's Son, yeah, Emperor
Yeah,
of Sand. Mhm.
and but I would put Fortitude um, from Gojira, and then uh, Hushed and Grim definitely in my top 5. So those 2 albums from last year kind of sit next to each other. It's surprising. I didn't think I would be able to listen cover to cover on both, and I can, especially Hushed and Grim. So like you
Mhm.
can just pop it in and listen to it like a CD, you know,
Yeah.
today with Amazon Music and everything else, I can bounce around so much. But those I listened cover to cover and enjoyed both of them. But my favorite one was Trivium's new album,
Oh, okay.
and uh, over the years they've grown on me. And then they were on Metal Tour of the Year with Megadeth and Lamb of God, and Hatebreed jumped in for In Flames because they couldn't make
Mhm.
it premiere when I saw them. But
That's right.
um, Trivium topped the list for me.
I'll have to
But
check. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of other good stuff that came out this year from some newer names. A lot of old. I mean, Dream Theater had a great album
Hmm.
hit this year. I don't know if you like the more progressive stuff, but their song Alien is kind of all over the place. Typical Dream Theater.
Yeah, I haven't listened to them in a really long time. But we'll check it out. Definitely check out Trivium. What's funny about Gojira, I everybody is a Mastodon fan. It's pretty likely they're a Gojira fan too, because they toured together, and I think there's just something that attracts the Mastodon fan to Gojira and vice versa. But I never, for some reason, it never clicked for me. There's a couple songs over the years that I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that riff. And then finally, it's really weird you said it, because yesterday I listened to Fortitude all the way through. I have Apple Music, so did it that way, and loved it. I'm like, I think I get it now. I think I get why everybody's bonkers over this band.
Well,
But
they have their shorter mini stories, but their stories, like, Mastodon kind of sticks to very poetic stuff. Um, I would say they're darker, less colorful than Mastodon, but they're both really creative bands that do a lot on the rhythm side of things. And
yeah,
man, it's just probably they're fun to listen. For me, I mean, they're not as fun as Anthrax was, but just the rhythm sections make them fun. And you know this 1,000 times over. The live show then is better than the album.
yeah.
I mean, they're almost always, as long as they're not too sauced up, a pretty amazing live.
I think I must have seen Gojira live, because I know I saw Mastodon when they toured with Gojira, but I don't remember it. I wonder if I went in late, because I didn't know. I hadn't even heard them. I think this was a really long time ago. But yeah, drums to me is I love crunchy guitar, and the combination of the drums with the crunchy guitar is, I think, what gets me. But the drums really is so important to me, and it's interesting how, like, those two bands, Braun from Mastodon, he's like, just everything's accented and like all over the place and very, very progressive. And I love it. And Gojira, I feel he's just super punchy, super intentional. Every hit counts. And
Very
it just,
tribal, kind of like,
yeah,
Sepultura and Soulfly and anything the Cavalera brothers do.
yeah. And I love that. I feel like they're totally different styles, and I love both of them. I love both of them. Um, So yeah, I'll probably be listening to a lot more Gojira now that I think
But
Fortitude's the one got me finally.
man, it's a great album. I thought they hit their stride before that, so I think they're gonna be around a long time.
Yeah.
Same with Trivium. They're much more on the progressive side. Um, I just like those dudes. It was so good seeing them live. They are so tight. I
Yeah.
mean, and they're actually a lot of fun. And their lyrics can be a little dark, but they're a ton of fun live. So if you get a chance to see them on any bill, go do it.
Yeah, I'll check him out. I mean, it's too bad. I don't think Megadeth's coming anywhere near us.
Not even on
Um,
the second leg.
Maybe the second leg. I haven't looked at the date. Are those dates figured out yet?
I
I feel
think
like
so. I
I
think
think
they
I looked
posted.
at it recently and I didn't see it. But maybe
Well,
I
I
missed it.
noticed they had a Rochester, New York date, which my brother's up there still. I was
Mhm.
thinking maybe calling him and talking him into going. So I thought maybe they were getting more East Coast bias on this one, but I didn't see the DC either.
Yeah. Um, Maybe we'll figure it out. I did hear from my cousin who lives in Las Vegas, in April 7th, I want to say.
Yep.
Which, Anna and our anniversary is March 12th. March 12th, yes. That's when we got married, as you know.
That was
You were there. But yeah, this March is 5 years. Um,
and I hit 20 four
oh,
days
that's
later.
right. In Maui, right? Maui or
Well, yeah, our anniversary is actually the 16th of March.
oh,
So,
nice.
but we had out. We did that a little bit earlier.
Gotcha. We're trying to do something special for 5. I mean, it's just hard with pandemic, and then having she'll be 3 in March.
Jeez.
Um, yeah. So we can't really leave her with the grandparents too long. So we're trying to figure out what would be a nice like weekend getaway. Las Vegas may be the answer to see Megadeth in early April. But we're sorting through that. But maybe you interested in going to Las Vegas at all in April? Maybe we can meet up.
I was supposed to go to the Vegas show on the first leg. It got dropped.
Oh,
so I was going to go to 2 shows with this guy that is pretty fun dude. He hadn't been to a metal concert in years, but was a Megadeth fan. It blew him away. So I was like, okay, if you like here in Dallas, and I had tickets, of course they canceled it. So I've been wanting to get my other buddy to go to Vegas recently. So yeah, let's see if that works. If you guys, I'll say this because I'm pretty sure in April I could pull it off with little friction since my kids are older and I know Elizabeth won't go, so she'll just say go. So if you guys book it, I will book it. I will be there.
All right. Well, I'll go. When we wrap up here, I'll go and talk to the boss. We already mentioned it. We're floating that idea around. So I'll talk to her again, see what we think in terms of the realm of the possible there. But it seems doable. It would have to be a quick weekend, kind of in and out thing, but I think it might be worth it. It's a little scary with the COVID stuff, but I don't know. We're boosted and all that jazz, and I think
no time for the in and out, love. We're just here to read the meter.
Well, that's a perfect note to end on, I think. Well, hey, Jerry, thanks so much, man. And maybe we'll schedule something else and we'll do the picture thing like you were talking about.
Or more politics, less metal. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, these things go where they go as long as it's one or the other. We certainly
hopefully I did Chaz proud by filling in for him.
Yeah. Well, I'll post this soon on our NBC page, and we'll see if anybody views it.
Somebody will view it for at least a minute. And then
yeah, we'll see.
See if you can get some stats how long they watch it.
Yeah, I think there's probably a way to do that. I just need to figure it out.
We'll buy everybody a half a Megadeth ticket if you watch the whole thing.
Yeah. And people will know that we're trying to go to Vegas. Maybe others will join us. Maybe that's our reunion.
Let's all meet up in Vegas.
About. Yeah, we've been talking about that for 5 years.
So after you post it, comment that you and Anna are booked. Then I'll comment I'm booked, and then we'll just see if who else
comes in. I'd love to see Steve again, man. That guy is a trip.
I've seen him a couple times, and I just saw him. Shout out to Rebel Radio too, by the way.
Yeah,
that station is awesome. He's always super cool. If I'm listening in to play something I request, and anybody, he will for anybody actually. Yeah. But yeah, we had a cool meal together when I was in Chicago. Saw him down here in Dallas a couple years ago, but yeah, look him up when you're in Chicago because he's a good dude to hang out with, and he's 1,000% metal.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I miss him. I can't wait to see him again. I'm sure that's going to happen. Maybe it'll be Vegas.
Yeah, Steve, if you're listening, I'll buy you your ticket. Not your plane ticket. I'll buy you your Megadeth ticket. If Jesse and Anna commit.
All right. That's a contingency. No pressure. All right. Well, I'll go talk to the boss. But hey, Jerry, great to see you, man. You look great. Great talking to you. And we'll do this. Let's do this soon.
Okay, dude.
All right, my brother.
Have a great Sunday.
All right. You too, man.
Bye.